147. And the objectives of this unit, that is emotions, unit 10, are to define the importance of emotions, to illustrate the development of emotions, to discover the differentiation and expression of emotions, and record the physiological changes in emotion, analyze the various theories of emotion. So this is what is comprising of this unit 2. Okay, so let us look at what is emotion and what are they, like how do we define that, and like how do we understand. Emotions are feelings that generally have both physiological and cognitive elements to influence the behavior. That means emotions, it just doesn't come like from out of the blue. It is dependent on your physiological and also your cognitive responses, right? Physiological consists of, thoughts, feelings, behavior, and then your cognitive is thought processes. Okay, so sense organs and the cognitive aspects, these two combined together gives rise to emotions. Okay, so experiences such as feelings of anger, sadness, happiness, jealousy are also known as emotions, right? It is an intense neural mental state that arises subjectively rather than through the conscious effort. That means this is not something that is, coming, what to say, this is subjective, means it is coming from within ourselves. There could be a stimulus from outside, but the emotions and the feelings are always from within. That is why it is subjective. So any emotion is differentiated from feeling. Feelings are only mild, right? There is a very little difference between feelings and emotions, right? Feelings are mild, but emotions are little more intense. Okay, so when you look at your this one subject, are very mild emotions where the level of activity is not high when compared to emotions. Yet another term used in the context is moods, right? Moods are simply the after effects of emotion. They are less intense and they tend to persist after the termination of the intense emotional experiences. They say, moods. We talk about mood swings. We talk how mood keeps changing. Like morning, you have one mood, afternoon, another mood. Or sometimes even there is some physiological changes in your body, maybe because of periods, or maybe because of some other issues, or maybe because of the psychotic medicines we take. So the moods can even fluctuate. It can even change. Okay. So that is why another term which is used is it persists, but after the termination of intense emotional experiences. Emotions and feelings are described as affective processes. They are reactions to sensory stimuli and cognizance. They involve the whole body and the various systems. Now, so now here in your textbook they talk about the extroverts and the introverts kind of people. Now, who are these extroverts kind of people? Extroverts are people who are very social, right? They are very expressive. It is easy for them to make friends. It's easy for them to socialize, right? And the opposite of it is other introverts. Introverts are people who do not like to socialize, who do not express themselves. They have feelings and emotions, but they repress it more. But extroverts are more expressive, right? And but they can also change. Like people who once upon a time were introverts, because of their exposure to education, exposure to trainings and orientation and various experiences of life that they come in, they can be trained, they can move towards extroverts, but the basic personality will remain. Okay, so that is the differentiation what they are given. Which page ma we are on?
148, ma'am. 148.
148. Okay, very good. So now we move on to the development of emotions. Okay. Every aspect of human behavior passes through a pattern of development, resulting in the changes as the individual grows from childhood to adulthood. Okay, so when the child is born, you know how the child expresses itself by crying, right? By making noise, and children even now, they also express anger, when you don't give them what they want, they express, affection, like, they may want to say but may not be able to get the words, or if they are able to articulate, they can even use the terms like I love you and all those kind of bye-bye, being happy, all this kind of thing, singing. Okay, so from childhood to adulthood, such changes are different types. They can be quantitative in nature. Further, it is seen while basic development processes common as a general way for all individuals, right? The statement holds true for emotions also, okay? So development for any child from the childhood to the adulthood, the developmental stages will more or less be the same, which is generally. Exceptionals will be there, few here and there, okay? But here we are talking only about the general aspect of it, okay? And yeah, all the emotions are not present at the time of birth. From the development of a newborn baby's first cry to the rich and complex emotional of life and adults, a vast number of changes occurs in the developmental experiences process. According to McDougall's concept of emotion, it's an instinctual process. Instinct means something that comes from within. Like, there is no, there is no outside influence for the person to. So what this MC Douglas, he felt was that emotions are something that are instinctive. It doesn't come from outside, but it springs from within. That is why it is called this. We instincts and emotion were both innate patterns. The James Lange theory also supported to some extent this view, as is implied there is a specific pattern of body reaction for each emotion, and this has formed the core of emotional experiences. John Watson, the leader of the behavioralism, examined the belief and concluded that there are basic emotional patterns. And what are they? Which are found even in infants. It is justifiable and regarded as being inherited. So, what are the three things? If you are on page number 140, I'm reading the second paragraph. He has focused on three major emotions. One is fear, another one is anger, and the third one is love. So he says, whatever it is, this is something that is there. It can be aroused from within, right? Now, you don't have to do anything. Suppose if there is a baby and Deepavali crackers, suddenly the baby gets scared. So that is fear. It happens from within, right? Another emotion is anger, right? Suppose if you take away what the baby is playing, maybe the toy or even a child, right? You take away the toy what the child is wanting to, or the child is playing in a cell phone. You just pull up the cell phone, the child will show rage and anger, right? And the other aspect is the love. Love also can be aroused by touch, by kisses, by embrace, okay? So all this. And love by the stimulation of certain zones of the body. So you can tickle the body, you can, of a child, then, you can cuddle, all this. So this will give. So these are the basic three. Remember these three things: fear, anger, and love, according to John Watson. This view was again put to test by MC Jones and Shermans. Okay. And found that the young infant did really show a general pattern of excitement and irrespective of the stimulus. And this generalized pattern of excitement later got differentiated into different forms of familiar emotional behavior. Okay. The classic attempt in the study of development of emotion was made by Catherine Bridges, right, who observed the children with reference to emotional behavior. Bridges came to conclusion that the newborn child exhibits a general pattern of excitement, which within the 3 months gets differentiated into distress and delight. So according to her, first 3 months, the child shows the excitements. It doesn't show the other forms, of the emotion that doesn't come to the surface. After the 3 months, she says that it gets differentiated. So you can see distress. Distress means when they are not happy, when they feel sad. You can see that the child is expressing this. The former appears under the unpleasant condition and the later appears under the pleasant condition. Okay. As the child grows and develops, two patterns are further differentiated into different kinds of pleasant and unpleasant emotions. So this is how during the development of the child, as they grow on, it gets more and more clearer and they are able to more and more express what are the unpleasant experiences and what are pleasant experiences. That means what is giving them happiness and joy, they express that, and what is giving them sadness and pain. Okay. So different investigators have given different hits. Wordsworth in 1938 proposed the following list of emotions. I am on the next page. What is your page, ma'am?
149, ma'am.
149.
149. Okay. So here they are given, check your progress, compare your answers with the one given at the end. What are emotions? You can see on the previous page, and how emotions are developed also you can see on the previous year. Now, differentiation and expression of emotion. Today, Nagamani and Swati are not there.
Can I read?
Have not come up. Huh?
Can I read?
Yeah, please. I'll be glad.
Thank you.
Read from, where you are reading from, the second paragraph.
Differentiation.
Emotions have been described by some theorists.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Emotions have been described
What's
by
your name?
Maulika.
Maulika, thank you. Come on, read.
Emotions have been described by some theorists as discrete and consistent responses to internal or external events which have a particular significance for the organism. Emotions are brief in duration and consist of a coordinate set of responses which may include verbal, physiological, behavioral, and neural mechanisms. Physiotherapist Michael C. Graham describes all emotions as existing on a continuum of intensity. The sphere might range from mild concern to terror, or shame might range from simple embarrassment to toxic shame. Emotions have also been described as biologically given and a result of evolution because they provided good solutions to ancient and recurring problems that faced our ancestors. Moods are feelings that tend to be less intense than emotions and that often lack a contextual stimulus.
Yeah.
Emotions.
So here you just make note of these things. Emotions are brief in duration, coordinated set of responses which include verbal, physiological, behavioral, and neural mechanism, right? And as he explained, the fears might be from mild to concerns to terror or shame might range from simple embarrassment to toxic shame. Yeah? Yeah, move on.
Emotions can be differentiated from a number of similar constructs within the field of affective neuroscience. Feelings are best understood as a subjective representation of emotions, private to the individual experiencing them. Moods are diffuse.
Yeah, it is subjective, means whatever we feel, it is our feeling, right? Other people will not to understand what we are feeling. Okay, so that is what means subjective. It is a subjective representation of my own emotions. Yeah, next.
Moods are diffuse affective states that generally last for much longer durations than emotions are also usually less intense than emotions.
Okay. Can you see the difference between the moods and emotions here? Yeah, move on.
Affect is an encompassing term used to describe the topics of emotion, feelings, and moods together, even though it is commonly used interchangeably with emotion.
Okay.
In addition, relationships exist between emotions, such as having positive or negative influences, with direct opposite existing. These concepts are described in contrasting and categorization of emotions. Graham differentiates emotions as functional or dysfunctional and argues all functional emotions have benefits.
Yeah, very good. It's clear, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, move on. Expression of emotions.
Expression of emotions. The basic ways of expressing emotions are innate. Children all over the world cry when hurt or sad and laugh when happy. Studies of children who are blind and deaf from birth indicate that many of the facial expressions, postures, and gestures that we associate with different emotions develop through maturation. They appear at the appropriate age even when there is no opportunity to observe them in others.
Okay, so this applies also to children who have the special needs, like if they are not able to see, if they are not able to hear. So despite that also, they will still be able to express their emotions. Yeah.
Sir Charles Darwin was intrigued with the expressions of emotions in blind children and in animals. In his book, The Expression of Emotions in Man and Animals, published in 1872, he proposed an evolutionary theory of emotions. According to Darwin, many of man's ways of expressing emotions are inherited patterns that originally had some survival value. For example, the expression of disgust is based on the organism's attempt to rid itself of something unpleasant that has been ingested. The quote, the quote from Darwin, the term disgust in its simplest sense means something offensive to the taste. But as disgust also causes annoyance, it is generally accompanied by a frown and often by gestures.
By a frown. Yeah.
And often by gestures as if to push away or to guard oneself against of offensive object. Extreme disgust is expressed by movements around the mouth identical with those preparatory to the act of vomiting. The mouth is opened widely with the upper lip strongly retracted, the partial closure of the eyelids or the turning away of the eyes or of the whole body or likewise highly expressive of disdain. This action seemed to declare that the despised person is not worth looking or is disagreeable to behold. Spitting seems an almost universal sign of contempt or disgust, and spitting obviously represents the rejection of anything offensive from the mouth. Certain facial expressions do seem to have a universal meaning regardless of the cultures in which the individual is raised. When photographs showing facial expressions of happiness, anger, sadness, disgust, fear, and surprise were shown to members of 5 different cultures, there was little difficulty in identifying the emotions that belonged to each expression. Even remote preliterate tribes that had virtually no contact with Western cultures were able to judge the facial expressions correctly, and American college students were fairly accurate in identifying emotions expressed by foreign natives from videotapes, although fear and surprise were often confused with each other.
Okay. It is clear, no? Any explanation is required?
No, ma'am, it's clear.
Clear, no? Come on. Let's move on. Physiological changes in emotions.
Physiological changes in emotions. When we experience an intense emotion such as fear or anger, we are aware of a number of bodily changes: rapid heartbeat and breathing, dryness of the throat and mouth, increased muscle tension, perspiration, trembling of the extremities, a sinking feeling in the stomach. Most of the physiological changes that occur during the intense emotion result from activation of the sympathetic division of the autonomic nervous system as it prepared the body for emergency action. For example, have you ever had the experience of being in a car when it spins out of control on an icy road? Almost instantly upon the car spinning off track, you experience an increase in heart rate, blood pressure, breathing, your pupil dilate, etc. This occurs at some level with all emotions. The system involved with this activity are central nervous system, limbic system and cortex, peripheral nervous system, somatic and autonomic, sympathetic and parasympathetic.
Yeah.
The
So these two are the things that actually activate all these things that is happening. Like he gave an example of a car, right? We don't have to go on an icy road. You go right in Hyderabad only. On peak hours, you go on the Begumpet road and, suddenly some fellow comes and hit you and you got from one flyover to you fall on the next. What is the reaction? All that you just now read, right? Those
yes,
reactions of fear, the rapid heart beating and, for all this. Okay, let's move on.
the autonomic nervous system consists of the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Two chains of neuron clusters just to the left and right of the spinal cord make up the sympathetic nervous system, which arouses the body for vigorous action. Traditionally, it has been called the fight or flight system.
Yeah.
Although some say that for women it should be called the tend or befriend system. That is sympathetic nervous system responses increases your heart rate, breathing rate, production of sweat, and flow of epinephrine, also known as adrenaline, thereby preparing you for intense activity. However, intense activity depends on the situation, your experience, and your personality. The parasympathetic nervous system consists of neurons whose axons extend from the medulla and the lower part of the spinal cord to neuron clusters near the internal organs. The parasympathetic nervous system decreases the heart rate, promotes digestion, and in general supports non-emergency functions. Both the sympathetic and parasympathetic systems send axons to the heart, the digestive system, and other organs. A few organs, such as adrenal gland, receive input from only the sympathetic nervous system. Both systems are constantly active. The alternation or shifting balance between them helps keep the body in homeostasis, but one system can temporarily dominate the other. An emergency that demands a vigorous response mostly activates the sympathetic system, whereas a restful situation mostly activates the parasympathetic system. Many situations activate parts of both systems at once.
Okay, so this homeostasis is a balance, right? That creates a balance in the body. Okay, so you see, check your progress, right? There is a given what about the expression of emotions? You just go to the previous page, you find all the answers. Explain physiological changes in the emotions also are there. Then we move on to the 10.5.
Yes.
Which page number, ma, we are on?
151, ma'am.
151. Okay, so in this 10.5, we are page number 151, right?
Yes, ma'am.
page 151. There are three theories here, major ones. One is James Lange theory. Another one is the Cannon-Bart theory. And the third one is the Schechter and Singer theory. Okay. So just we will look at the important aspect of what each theory is all about. Okay. So we look. I will not read the introduction and all because we need to move on faster. Okay. So for James Lange theory, William James, a famous psychologist at Harvard during the late 1800s, believed the important factor in our felt emotion is the feedback from the bodily changes that occur in response to frightening or upsetting situation. He started this theory in the form that seems to put the cart before the horse. You understand now what it means to put the cart before the horse? That means we are afraid because we run. Okay, that is what it means, the cart before the, right? We are afraid because we run, right? We don't run because we are afraid. Okay, so this is what is his theory. So we are angry because we strike. A Danish physiologist named Carl Lange arrived at a similar proposal at the same time, and the theory is referred to as the James Lange theory. So when you are when even one line 2 marks question, 1 mark question, or underlining of any fill in the blanks comes, when you are talking about the James Lange theory, when you think that this sentence, putting the cart before the horse, that is, we are afraid because we run, then you will remember that. Okay. And when we think of the instance of recognition of emotion, does not follow bodily response. If you stumble suddenly on the stairs, like if you are getting down the stairs and suddenly you stumble, you automatically grab to hold on to something, that handrail that is there. Before time, you recognize you are in a state of fear. You felt emotion. After the crisis is over, it includes the perception of a pounding heart, right? See, you are getting down the stair, you stumble, and then you want to grab something to hold on to so that you don't roll down, right? But once you are able to balance, no, you realize suddenly you start feeling, that rapid heart rate, and then the feeling of weakness, the trembling in the arms and the legs, like, no, you feel shaken because it was unexpected and unwarranted. Right? Because of the feeling of fear follows the bodily response. This situation gives some plausibility to the James Lange theory. So there you can see the arrow mark. Which page we are in? 52 or 51 only?
152.
Yeah. So you can see, see the body response, gives feedback to the brain, and then you see the emotion that is activated. So remember this diagram. Even if you draw the diagram and explain it, you'll get some marks. Okay. So what about the next theory? It is the Cannon-Bart theory. Briefly, the major objections to the James Lange theory came from Walter Cannon, a physiologist at the University of Chicago, who pointed out that bodily changes do not seem to differ very much from one emotional state to another, despite the fact that we as individuals are usually pretty clear about which emotions we are experiencing, right? And the internal organs are relatively insensitive structures, not well supplied with nerves, and the internal changes occur slowly to be the source of emotional feeling. Thirdly, artificially inducing the bodily changes associated with this emotion, that is, injecting a person with underlying, does not produce the experiences of true emotions. So what does he say? He assigned that the central role in emotion to the thalamus. Yeah, that is the response. He suggested that the thalamus responded to an emotion-producing stimulus by sending impulsive simultaneously to the cerebral cortex and to the other parts of the body. Emotional feelings were a result of joint arousal of the cortex and the sympathetic nervous system. According to this view, bodily changes and the experience of emotion occur at the same time. So slightly different from the James Lange theory. Okay, so he has put here, there is a diagram put here, thalamus that responded, impulses are sent to the cerebral cortex and the other parts of the body. And you see how there is a bodily change and how sympathetic nervous system gives rise to experience of emotion. Okay, so what is the third one now? Schechter and Singer theory. Okay, now it's a classical experiment found evidence for this hypothesis. In the study done by these people, participants were told that they would receive an injection of vitamin. In reality, they were given epinephrine, a drug that causes responses that typically occurs during strong emotional reaction, such as an increase in physiological arousal, including heart rate and respiration rates, and reddening of the face. The members of, so normally in these kind of experiments, they'll have two groups, right? So the member of both the groups were then placed individually in the situation where a confederate of the experiment acted in one of two ways. In one condition, they acted angry and hostile. In the other condition, he behaved as if he exuberantly happy. The purpose of this experiment was to determine how the participants would react emotionally to the confederate's behavior. When they were asked to describe their own emotional state at the end of the experiment, the participant exposed to the angry confederate reported that they felt angry, right? And while those exposed to the happy confederate reported feeling happy. In sum, the results suggest that the participants turned to the environment and the behavior of others for an explanation of the physiological arousal they were experiencing. The result of the Sketcher-Singer experiment then supported a cognitive view of emotion in which emotions are determined jointly by relatively non-specific kind of physiological arousal and the labeling of that arousal on the basis of cues from the environment, right? So here they brought in the environment. Although the later research has found that the arousal is both specific, the Sketcher and the Singer believed that they were right in assuming that when the source of physiological arousal is unclear, we may look to our surroundings to determine what we are experiencing. So you see there is a diagram here, activation of the general physiological arousal, okay? So there is a person who's doing the action, maybe getting angry or showing happiness or whatever. The observer of the experimental cues, right? The determination of the label to place the arousal, identifying the emotion experience. Okay. So here again, there is check progress. Explain the Cannon-Barth theory. We can see it on the previous page, that is page 152. And then write a short note on James Lange theory. You can see it on page 191. Okay. You have a summary and then you also have a progress, right? Check your progress. Just go through the progress. You will have, it will just reinforce whatever you have learned, right? Then model exam questions are there. Just go through as it is, whatever the questions given here in the model answer question, if you are able to answer, right? Few terminologies we cannot change, like cortex and parasympathetic, sympathetic and all. But the other things you can write in your own words and your sentences. Okay. And then they are very clearly given how many lines you have to write. Okay. So answer the following in about 10 lines, right? Answer about in 20 lines. Okay. So accordingly, you follow that. Then there is a glossary given. In case you are stuck with something, you can just check the glossary also for some words if you are not able to understand. Okay. So from here, we move on to unit 11. What is the page, ma'am?
156, ma'am.
156. Okay. So we move on to motivation. Very interesting topic for youngsters. I mean, for all of us, for you and for me. I need to be motivated to take the class. You need to be motivated, to read, to learn, to understand, and then prepare yourself for the exam. So motivation is something that both of us require, all of us require. Without motivation, we won't even get out of the bed, right? So let us see what are the objectives of motivation. After studying this unit, you will be able to define and explain the meaning of motivation, explain the process of motivation, describe different types of motives, and explain different theories of motivation, right? So let us give a brief introduction. Motivation is an internal condition that arouses individuals to act, direct, and sustain the behavior towards a desired goal. Like if my goal, simple goal, I take small goal, I have to go to college, right? Or I have to go to work. Okay. If I have to go, that is be my desired goal. So for this desired goal, I need to have the internal condition predisposed, meaning to say my internal condition should be able to act, sustain the behavior, right? I need to have that in my mind that tomorrow I need to go to college, or tomorrow I need to get up and go to work, or tomorrow I need to go for the exam. So that itself will impulsively pull or push my body to get out of the bed. Okay, so that is what it involves different components or indicators like direction, latency, intensity, and persistent behavior. While the direction of the behavior refers to individual choice, when there are options or alternatives, the latency component explains the length of a time a person takes to initiate action. Intensity of the behavior is how hard an individual works to achieve the desired goal. Similarly, the persistence of motivation is continued effort towards a goal in spite of obstacle and how long the person remains with the goal. The intensity or the level of motivation varies from one person to another person, right? And also within person in different times. For example, one must work hard to perform well in examination, but the effort each student put, right? See how it varies, motivation from one person to another. But the effort each student puts in differs from student to student. Further, the student who is preparing for the examination may not put in the same effort continuously. The student may read seriously for some time and takes it lightly at some other time, right? Thus, I'm moving on to the next page in my book, right? Or if you're also moving on, it may be 156. So, yeah.
157, ma'am.
157. Okay. So intensity of motivation is not consistent all the time. In order to understand human behavior, we need to know different aspects of motivation, particularly the meaning, definition, process of motivation, types of motivation, physiological, psychological, and also theories of motivation. Like McDougall's theory of instincts, Freud's psychoanalytic theory, Maslow's theory of hierarchy of needs. In the following paragraph, we will discuss. Okay. So let's look at what are the meanings and definitions given in our book. Okay. So motivation is defined as the process of activating, maintaining, and directing the behavior towards a particular goal. Right. Now exams are coming. Okay. So I need to prepare for the exam. Right. When they announce the date, automatically I start feeling, my God, the exam dates are announced, right? So I need to do something. So it is a process of activating and maintaining and directing the behavior, right? Which will make me go and take the books, which will make me open the book, and which will make me make some notes, which will make me schedule time, which will help me to make a study plan, right? So when I will be able to do this only when there is a trigger from the other side, like when there is a desired goal. The desired goal for me is examination. Similarly, it could be also an interview. It could also be a job, right? So all those kind of things. So it is a process by which activities are started, directed, continued, so that the physical or psychological needs or wants are met. Similarly, motivation is an internal factor or a condition that initiates and sustains activity. In organizational psychology, it is defined as a willingness to exert high levels of effort towards organizational goals. It is the force acting within the person, right, to initiate a behavior. The term motivation is derived from the Latin word, which is movere, which means to move. Motivation, what moves people to do things to reach their goal. For example, when need for a food arises in person, the person feels hungry. Okay. So these are all very, very simple motivations. Like, hunger, thirst, sleep, cold, because correct time we will feel hungry, because it is time for us. We know it's lunch time, we know it's dinner time. Correct time we'll feel sleepy because we know it is our sleep time. Okay. So in the event of failure to get the desired food, the person may search for alternatives like fruits to satisfy hunger. Now let us look at the process, motivational process. In order to have thorough understanding of motivation, one must have knowledge of the basic process and the elements that are involved in it. The process of motivation starts with physiological or psychological needs. The need denotes deficiency or lack of something. Here in physiological or psychological imbalance exists. However, a balance is restored after the attainment of goal. An unsatisfied need creates tension that stimulus drives within the individual. The condition of a need leads to a drive. A drive is a state of tension or an arousal produced by a need. It energizes activity to fulfill a need. When activity leads to goal achievement, it reduces the drive. and the organism stops being active. The organism returns to a balanced state. Drivers are aroused to state with direction and they are action oriented. These drives generate actions or behavior to satisfy the need and to reduce the tension. In brief, the motivational cycle or the processes as follows. Can you see there is one line that is given there, right, with small arrow marks, right?
Yes, ma'am.
We are on page number 150.
157, ma'am.
157.
157. Okay. So you look at the second part of the paragraph that is on motivational process. You will find, see how a need leads to a drive. Which chapter? Chapter 11. It's chapter 11. Okay. So need gives rise to the drive and the drive towards the goal. Okay. Which is the directed behavior. And then a goal is achieved. Okay. And then the drive reduction. Okay. Meaning to say, see, the need is I'm feeling hungry, right? So I want to eat. So when I eat, when I get what I eat, when food is served to me, I have achieved that goal. Then what happens? My hunger subsides. Okay. Same way, if I'm feeling very, very sleepy, right? I want to sleep. That's a need, right? And then what drives me? Like I take time, I go, I rest on the bed. That way I fulfill the bodily needs to be rested. So my goal is achieved by the desired goal of rest is achieved. Then what happens? I can get up fresh in the morning. I need not to sleep. Okay. So drive reduction. Is it clear? Which is given here. Are you able to
Yes.
understand, Ma?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. To illustrate further, okay, some physical needs such as food, water, oxygen, avoidance of painful stimuli. This arousal condition motivates the organism to initiate behavior in order to satisfy the need. For instance, lack of food produces certain chemical changes in the blood indicating the need for food, which in turn creates a drive, state of arousal or tension. The organism seeks to reduce this. See, is further explaining what we already understood. Yeah. So this is how the process of motivation happens. So if there is any question about defining motivation and define its process, they're asking you to write 10 lines. Give these examples. These are very simple. You can even show these arrow marks. Can you see this need, drive, goal directed behavior, goal achievement, and how the drive reduction happens, right? Okay. Because this is further explained with the kind of examples and to see how we can correct the state of imbalance caused by the motive. In other words, motives or drives, behavior is the means that goals are to be achieved. Okay. Now we move towards checking the progress, right? Explain motivation with example, right? You can do it. Briefly describe the process of motivation. You check on page number 156 and 157. You can answer both the questions without any problem. Let's look at the types of motives, right? So different people have defined in different this thing, but let's look the basic types of the motives. Monica, would you be wanting to read?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Ma. Come on, go on.
Basically, there are three kinds of motives: biological, psychological, and general.
Psychosocial, Ma.
Sorry, ma'am. Psychosocial.
Social, very good. And general.
General. Biological motives are mostly comprised of needs such as hunger, thirst, pain, air, needs for respiration, sex, and maternal needs.
Yeah.
Psychosocial motives are power, affiliation, belongingness, achievement, and other social needs and wants. Similarly, general motives include curiosity, exploration, sensory stimulation, and the like. Many psychologists also categorize motives into two major categories: primary and secondary motives. Primary motives are also known as physiological or biological motives, and secondary motives are also called psychological or psychosocial motives. Now we will discuss briefly physiological and psychological motives.
Yeah.
Physiological motives.
Yeah.
Physiological motives are also called primary motives as they are essential for the survival of human beings. They stem from our body and their purpose is to keep us alive. They are internal bodily needs that force individuals to satisfy the needs like thirst and hunger. These are activated when there is imbalance in the body and to maintain a state of equilibrium. These are absolutely necessary to be satisfied. For example, if you are thirsty, you become motivated to drink. If you are hungry, you become motivated to eat. And if you are tired, you become motivated to sleep. To understand the role and operation of physiological motives or needs in human life, one should also know the concept of homeostasis.
Yeah. So you understand the aspects of physiological motives, right? Physiological motives is biological needs, like, of food, clothing, share. I mean, basic necessities of, hunger, thirst, all this. Okay. It is already very clearly given. Yeah, ma, go on.
Homeostasis. It is the
Homeostasis. Yeah. Yeah.
Homeostasis. It is the tendency of the body to maintain a balance among internal physiological conditions. Such a balance is essential for human survival. For example, body temperature must not to be high or too low. Similarly, a blood pressure should not rise or fall beyond certain limits. Body should also have certain amounts of sugar. Physiologists have discovered that many homeostatic mechanisms are involved in keeping the conditions within normal limits. Physiological mechanism would take care of maintenance of homeostatic balance and the body also makers of regulatory behavior. That is behavior or actions that helps regulate internal physiological conditions to restore physiological equilibrium. Such regulatory behavior is instrumental in satisfying physiological needs. For example, when there is depletion of water in body, physiological imbalance would arise. Then individuals would try to get water through appropriate actions in order to maintain water level in the body. That is, the balance is restored when the individual drinks water. This act of balancing is called homeostasis. This brings deviation in body functioning back to an optimal state, similar to the way of thermostat works.
Yeah. So you understand what is homeostasis, no? It is basically body's balance, right? When we don't have enough water in our body, right? When we are having fever, the body imbalance is disrupted, right? Because now we should talk about the temperature, have the normal temperature of the body, right? And we should have the normal level of sugar, normal level of blood pressure. Okay, so to maintain that balance is what is called the homeostasis in simple terms. Okay, very clearly it is given. Yeah, go on, ma.
Further, it is to be noted that physiological needs are innate and that they are not learned. Now, let us discuss briefly some of important physiological
You
needs like
understand
hunger.
what is innate? You understand what is innate? Innate means it is something from within, right? All this body balance, what we are talking about, is something that happens within ourselves. It is subjective. That's what it means, innate. It is from within. Okay? Yeah, move on.
Physiological needs like hunger, thirst, and sex.
Yeah.
Hunger. Hunger is a regulatory behavior that is central to our existence. The hypothalamus is the key brain structure in the control of eating due to the fact of that the hypothalamus controls the secretion of certain hormones such as insulin, melanin concentrating hormone, and orexin. These hormones work to stimulate and inhibit eating and to also decrease metabolism. Evidence
What
for
is
this
metabolism? It's a food burning capacity, right? When we are talking about metabolic rate, like, I eat and it doesn't get digested fast. That means metabolism is slow. You eat and it gets digested faster. That means your metabolism is good. Okay? Yeah, move on. Evidence for this comes from the research carried out in 1950s,
which demonstrated that damage to the lateral hypothalamus has resulted in the cessation of eating in rats, a condition known as aphasia.
Yeah.
Further evidences comes from similar research which illustrated that damage to the ventromedial hypothalamus resulted in hyperphagia, a condition which causes rats to overeat, resulting in a dramatic increase of food intake and body fat. In addition, further research discovered that electrical stimulation of the lateral hypothalamus caused the eliciting of eating, whereas electrical stimulation of VMH caused the inhibition of eating. This contrasting effect suggests that the lateral hypothalamus is involved in the electing of eating and the VMH is involved in the ceasing of eating. However, this research soon proved to be far too simple a model as it ignored it and fiber bundles within the lateral hypothalamus and the ventromedial hypothalamus. Damages to these fiber bundles resulted in a aphasia but also caused injury in the paraventricular nucleus of the hypothalamus, and that this damage alone could cause aphasia. It is not just the activities of the lateral and ventromedial hypothalamus that controls the regulatory behavior of eating. The paraventricular is also important.
Okay, so these are a lot of scientific terminologies are there. So please read it up again, read it 2-3 times for a better understanding. And I've just given a test, how they keep conducting different kinds of tests to prove some points. Yeah, move on. Next, thirst.
Thirst. Current theories of thirst postulate two brain mechanisms for control of water intake: osmoreceptors that are sensitive to the chemical concentration of the body fluids, and volumetric receptors that responds to the total volume of body fluids. Osmotic thirst. The first regulatory features associated with water intake has to do with osmotic thirst. To fully understand this phenomenon, we must realize that water is present both within the cellular compartment, intracellular, and outside the cell membrane, extracellular. Water is free to move across the cellular membrane into extracellular spaces. As a rule, the concentration of water internally or externally is determined by osmosis. Osmosis is the movement of water in a direction of a greater concentration of solutes, particles such as minerals, sodium and chloride, ions, so forth. When there are a greater amounts of solutes outside the cell than inside, water leaves the cell and cellular dehydration results. The cells called osmoreceptors, which are located in the vicinity of lateral hypothalamus and preoptic areas of the brain, are uniquely sensitive to these cellular changes. Although the precise physiological mechanism is not known, when these osmoreceptors are stimulated, they trigger a drinking response.
Okay, move on.
Volumetric thirst. The second type of regulatory thirst, called volumetric, is initiated by a condition known as hypovolemia. Hypovolemia is defined as a depletion of extracellular fluid. Events that produce hypovolemia in humans include vomiting, diarrhea, or bleeding, further because the intake of alcohol inhibits the usual reabsorption of fluid by the kidney. There is considerable water loss from extracellular fluid compartments after the consumption of alcoholic beverages. In each case, extracellular fluid volume is reduced and the body has no way of recouping the loss without drinking.
Okay.
Next,
Sexual. Anybody else wants to volunteer to read?
No problem.
I'll read, ma'am.
Who will
Okay.
read?
Me,
Who can-
Maimuna, ma'am.
Who?
Maimuna. My name is Maimuna, ma'am.
I didn't get your name, sorry.
Maimuna.
Maimuna. Okay, after
Yeah.
Malika, it is. Thank you, Malika. Maimuna, come on.
Sexual activity is a type of non-regulatory behavior in the sense that apart from reproduction is not essential to the survival of human species, but it is psychologically very important to us, and hence we need to know how it is controlled. Both the gonadal hormones and neural circuits are responsible. Testosterone is a male hormone that masculinizes the sex organs as well as the brain during development. This is a process better known as organizing effects of the gonadal hormones. The gonad hormones have organizing effects on various areas of the brain, including the prefrontal cortex, the amygdala, and spinal cord. However, the major organizing effect is in the hypothalamus, particularly the preoptic area of medial hypothalamus. This peptic area plays a significant role in the copulatory behavior of male rats. For example, male rats that were castrated at birth had a smaller preoptic area, and female rats that were treated with testosterone showed an increase in the size of their preoptic area. In addition, the sexual behavior of both males and females also depends on the activating effects of hormones This is the actions that gonadal hormones have on an adult brain. In females, the focus is on the ovarian hormones that are present during a female's estrous cycle. These ovarian hormones alter brain activity, which in turn alter behavior. In males, the focus is on testosterone, and this initiates sexual behavior in two ways. Firstly, the effects of testosterone on the amygdala results in motivation to seek sexual activity. And secondly, the effects of testosterone on the hypothalamus results in copulatory behavior. Thus, it is evident that the hypothalamus plays a very important role in the control of sexual activity in both males and females. The female mating position, commonly known as lordosis, which consists of an elevation of the rump and arching of the back, is controlled by ventromedial hypothalamus. This is evident from the fact that damage to this area means that lordosis is abandoned. Therefore, the role of VMH is twofold. During coitus, it influences the hormonal changes that occur in females, and it also controls the brain activity that creates the common female mating position. The hypothalamus is an area of the brain that is fundamentally responsible for the control of eating of sexual activity. Both these activities are motivated behaviors, yet they differ in whether they are regulated or non-regulated. Eating is an example Eating is an example of regulated behavior as it involves a homeostatic mechanism. The hypothalamus controls eating through the emission of hormones such as insulin and glucose. Research has shown that the lateral hypothalamus and ventromedial hypothalamus play key roles in the control of eating. On the other hand, sexual activity is an example of a non-regulatory behavior as no homeostasis is involved. The preoptic area of the medial hypothalamus is central to the control of sexual activity, and the gonadal hormones also play a role. Both eating and sexual activity are types of motivated behaviors that are controlled by neural circuits, namely the hypothalamus, and are also influenced by evolutionary and environmental factors.
Okay.
Should I move to the next one?
Yeah, move on. I think
Psychosocial motives.
Yeah.
The answers, ma'am, I'm reading a bit too fast. Should I slow it down?
No, don't slow it down because we have to close by 11:30 and then I have another session.
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
So what we do, the psychosocial, so now these things, when you are talking about these are the types of motives, the physiological motive and homeostasis is more or less, it is appears that you will be able to manage. But here, hunger, thirst, and sex. A lot of technical terms are there. You may have to read it again and again to be able to have a better understanding. Okay, so you read it that, and even psychosocial motives and achievement motivation, right? So I just touch upon the basic important aspects of this psychosocial motivation, what it is. Like biological motives cannot provide answer to this question. Psychological motives are innate, but are learned or acquired. These needs are called the acquired needs. Okay. Psychosocial needs, right? I'm just reading, I don't know which page you all are in. What is your page number, Ma?
160, ma'am.
160. Okay, so on page number 160, in the psychosocial motives, I'm reading from between so that I want to move on. So psychosocial motives are innate but are also learned and acquired. These needs or motives are called acquired needs, psychogenic needs, secondary needs, or psychological needs. These needs include needs for power, needs for achievement, and needs for affiliation. See, I'm not explaining all this because when you are talking about the theory of motivation by Maslow, we'll be able to understand still further how he categorizes different needs, and there I will be able to, help you on with further understanding of what it means to have this affiliation need or belonging needs, or achievement needs and stuff like that. Okay. So achievement motivation, the need achievement is stable learned characteristic in which persons obtain satisfaction for striving and attaining a level of excellence. See, basic, as we told in the beginning, first physiological needs are very important because that forms the foundation and the basic need. That comes the other needs, the esteem needs, then comes the belonging needs. Like that, there is a hierarchy of needs by Abraham Maslow. The motive is not biological, but has a tremendous effects on human behavior. People differ from in the degree to which they experience this need. Achievement motivation can be seen in many areas of human endeavors, such as jobs, right? School, sports, science, business. Early life experiences influence the strength of achievement, motivation of people in later stages. Similarly, expectations that the parents have on the children also play important role in the development of achievement motivation. Okay, so all these are examples. You just read a little more, you'll be able to understand. Affiliation motive. Affiliation is establishing and maintaining relationship with other people. Right? You have affiliation to private colleges have affiliation to Osmania University. Right? There are certain kinds of goods or products that is affiliated to certain very popular brands. All that. That is what affiliation means. Generally, we need the company of friends or who maintain some form of relationship with others. People who have high affiliation may have the desire to be friends with most of the time and alone less compared to people who have low affiliation need. However, gender has some influence on the amount of people time spent with friends. Regardless the affiliation orientation, female students spend significantly more time with their friends and less time alone than male students. Affiliation motive is aroused when individual feels threatened or helpless. People high on this needs are motivated to seek the company of others and maintain friendly relationship with other people. Power motive. After stress, the people have also overwhelming drive for superiority or power. Power motive refers to desires to be in charge, like to take up leadership positions, to take up powerful positions, maybe political powers like MLA or whatever. Power struggle is visible in social life at all levels, from family, from community and nation to the international level. People who are high on power motives strive for higher political gains and position. They try to be high places in the government. They do lobbying, manipulate, and manage to be in control of activities. Lobbying means they try and influence with their ideas, with their thought processes to ensure that they get those positions, they get those seats. Okay. Some research studies show that the people with higher power need engage in greater amount of fighting, participation in competition, sports, drinking, gambling, than people with low motive power. It is, however, more true in case of men and women. One important characteristic of power motivated people is that they are very assertive. Assertive means they don't allow themselves to be taken for granted. People can't just use them or use their services. They're very particular about their own power. They retain their power. They don't let people walk all over them. That's what it means to be assertive. You check your progress, explain homeostasis. A whole para is given in your book in the previous pages, right? It is all about maintaining the balance in the body, meeting the needs of hunger, thirst, and rest. Okay, list psychological motives and explain achievement motivation. Okay, that is also given in your book. Now we are moving on to the theories of human motivation. Okay, so basically there are how many theories here? I think there are 3. Am I right? There are 3 theories in motivation. It is given in your book. Okay, one is the Freud psychoanalytic theory, Maslow's theory, and the McDonough's theory of instinct. Theory of instinct is nothing but the theory that they feel that it is all instinctive. Instinctive is something that is comes from within, right? James defined instinct as the faculty of acting in such a way as to produce certain ends without foresight of ends and without previous education in the performance. Similarly, McDougall defined instinct as an inborn capacity. This is what instinct means, an inborn capacity for purposive behavior. McDougall popularized the concept of instinct, and he was one of the earliest psychologists to the instinct theory of motivation. In his famous book, An Introduction to Social Psychology, McDougall argued that all human behavior can be explained through human instincts, right? He maintained that all of our thoughts and behaviors were the result of instincts. According to him, while reflexes are activities which are simple and like unchanging, like sneezing, blinking, instinctive behavior is complex, modifiable, adaptable to changing circumstances. He identified initially instincts and later expanded it to 18 instincts. Okay, so they are curiosity, flight, repulsion, self-abasement, reproduction, creativity, gregarious, all this. Okay, he has listed up till I. Okay, so he stands that the instincts have certain important characteristics. That is, these instincts can be unlearned, uniform in expression, and universal in species. According to him, instinctive behavior are 3 elements which inculcate perception, behavior, and emotion as explained. Perception, we know already, it is the individual's attention to stimuli. that is relevant to instinct and purpose. Behavior, it involves action to satisfy the instinct and purposes. And emotion, it involves both positive and negative emotion. The instinct theory of motivation views biological or genetic programming as a cause of motivation. It means that all humans have same motivation due to similar biological programming, right? It is something repetitive what we earlier also read about, but this is specifically the theory of instinct, okay? The theory says that the root of all motivation is the motivation to survive. From the motivation to survive, all the other motivation emerge. As people act or behave with this kind of motivation, all actions therefore are considered as instincts. A common example used to explain instinct theory is that of another. The mother attempts to provide comfort to the baby who has been crying all night, and she does not sleep until she sees the baby is calm and asleep, right? Why they are using this example? Because mothers basically use their instinct to respond to their babies. Okay. According to the instinct theory, human mothers behave in this way because they were biologically programmed to do so. It is the mother's instinct to provide comfort for the child. Proponent of the theory argue that this is not because of conditioning or learning of the mother having strong female role models, or she's raised in a rich family or a poor family. It is all because of instinct. So it has got nothing to do with the kind of background that mother is coming from, whether a rich background, poor one, but it is basically because as a woman, she's a mother, her biological instinct is to ensure that the needs of the baby is met. So this is all about the instinctive theory. Remember the examples and think about how instincts work. One of the criticism is that many identified instincts are not universal. For instance, there are mothers who do not exhibit. Okay, there could be exceptionals. Okay, instinctual way to take care of their children. Further, anthropologists also note that many instincts are not found in many cultures. For example, pugnacity, fighting aggressiveness, right, is not typical of many primitive society. There are peaceful societies in which men found no need to fight. Okay, so that is one theory, first theory, which is the instinct theory. The second theory is the Freud psychoanalytic theory of motivation. Now, what does he say? He explains human behavior and important concepts of instinct and unconsciousness. These concepts have assumed greater importance in learning human motivation. Freud believed that the behavior is determined by two basic instincts, life instinct or eros, and death instinct or thanatos. The life instinct include impulses which are involved in the survival of the individual and the species. Life instinct is expressed in the form of self-preservation by satisfying all the needs like hunger, thirst, and sex, right? And life instincts represent pleasure and satisfaction. The second instinct is death. Instinct, including aggressiveness, acts as impulses. They are directed towards self-destruction or destruction of others. Destroying others is manifested in the form of murders, war, etc. Death tendencies, death instinct include aggressive and destructive tendencies. Psychoanalytic theory emphasizes that the drives or motives like sex and aggression arise in infancy, but their expression is prevented by parents, and hence repression occurs, which is one of the defense mechanisms. A repressed tendencies remain active as unconscious motive, and they find expression in indirect ways or symbolic ways. Psychoanalytic theory of Freud viewed that human behavior is influenced by inner forces and impulses, often operating below the level of consciousness. Okay, unconscious motives play a dominant role in human behavior. He believed that unconscious motives are expressed in different forms. People often express their wishes in dreams of which they are unaware. Hidden motives are revealed through dreams. Slip of tongue, they call the Freudian slip, also express unconscious needs. Similarly, symptoms of mental illness are shown to serve unconscious motives of needs. According to Freud, there are three levels of awareness of conscious. The first level is consciousness. It includes thoughts and experiences which individual is aware at any particular point of time. The second level is pre-conscious or foreconscious. This level is below the conscious level and consists of thoughts, feelings, and experience which are not available immediately but can be recalled later with little effort. The third level is the unconscious, and that includes ideas, thoughts, feelings which cannot be brought to awareness of conscious level by ordinary means. Freud proposed the unfulfilled desires, ideas, and feelings form part of unconsciousness, and much of human behavior is motivated by unconscious issues. They are either normal behaviors such as interests, hobbies, bizarre behavior such as dislike towards people, Now, Freud coined the term called the slip of tongue, also called the Freudian slip. It is an inadvertent mistake in speech or writing that though they reveal a person's unconscious motive. Unconscious desires find expression in the slips of tongue. Human behavior, which is guided by unconscious process, can be understood by special technique developed by the psychoanalyst. The technique needs free association, dream analysis, analysis of forgetting and slip of tongue. To conclude, Freud gave a comprehensive account of motivation, but many of his concepts cannot be empirically verified. Okay, so this is all about the psychoanalytic theory. Okay, it is very, very simple. So Freud always thought that we operate at 3 different levels. Okay, the conscious, the semi-conscious, and the unconscious. He said many of our behavior is directed from the unconscious. It is lying dormant. Our experiences of the past, whatever it is, because of the social conditioning or the social norms, we are not able to express at that particular time. But it remains in the unconscious and it comes up in some time as Freudian slip. Freudian slip means if there is an unconscious anger or something behind my mind, I may not intend to hurt somebody, but unconsciously I will have a tongue slip. I may say something that can be hurting. And then you say, I really didn't mean it, but it just came out of the blue. So that is the Freudian slip. And he says, our unconscious motives also are lying right submerged, right? It is like an iceberg. What you see is just the tip, right? What you see of the iceberg is just the tip. But below that it is quite a deep. So that is what, according to Freud's psychoanalytic theory, that our conscious, unconscious, and unconscious, there are 3 different levels from which we operate. What we are aware is just a very on the superficial level. But what we are unaware and many things that are gone underground is in the unconscious. Okay. So he says that the needs arises from that, right? And that is also gives rise. And how we will be able to deal with our unconscious problems, that is causing Freudian slip or causing problems in relationships. There is a theory called psychoanalytic theory. There is a counseling also, psychoanalysis, where you help the person, to go back in time and to be able, to let go of the person, to forgive the person, to be able to make peace with your past. Okay, so psychoanalysis is one kind of a method that is used in counseling, and there is also some free association, how the Freud uses that to heal people. And then there is also dream analysis. Sometimes some of the problems that we have can also come in the dream. They say you write down your dreams every day for 30 days and you see a theme running through these 30 days. There are different characters coming in the dreams and all of them are us, and you try and see the link, right? So dream analysis also helps us in healing. So we come to the last part of this one. That is the Maslow's motivation theory. Somebody wants to read? Anybody would
Yes,
like
ma'am.
to read? Huh?
Can I read, ma'am?
Yeah, please. Who's that, Monica?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Thank you, Monica. Read.
Abraham Maslow, a humanist psychologist, has disagreed with the theories of psychoanalysis and behaviorism and stated that both theories are not based on the analysis of actions of normal people. While psychoanalysis were guided by the observation of abnormal people, behaviors are guided by animal experiments. Hence, these theories cannot be adequately explain the behavior of normal people. To explain human behavior, Maslow developed a theory of hierarchy of needs, and he has also published a famous book titled Motivation and Personality in the year 1954. Maslow attempted to analyze brighter side of the people and not the darker side. He attempted to explain human behavior as a voluntary and purposeful action. His theory gained wider popularity among different scholars. Psychologists like McClellan, Clayton, Alderfer, and Frederick Herzberg have also proposed need theories. Need theories are based on the premise that people are motivated by unfulfilled needs. Needs can be explained as psychological or physiological deficiencies that provoke some type of behavioral responses. Maslow's theory is based on needs, and he identified initially 5 main needs in order of importance, namely physiological needs, safety and security needs, social needs, esteem needs, and self-actualization needs. These needs are further divided into basic needs or deficiency needs, D needs, and growth needs or being needs, B needs. The deficiency needs, when unmet, motivate people to act for their fulfillment. The theory suggests the people fulfill the basic needs first before moving on to other advanced needs. Usually, people would focus more on fulfilling his basic needs like thirst, hunger, sleep, etc. Then the safety and security needs will take the lead. Once these are satisfied, other needs like love, affection, friendship will bother the individual. Soon after, people will crave for respect, fame, and recognition in the society. He stated that these needs produce a drive and a desire and motivate people to initiate action for accomplishment of needs. Maslow proposed that motivation is the result of a person's attempt at fulfilling five basic needs. Some of the assumptions of the theory are: motivation is usually complex. Surface behavior is often an expression of a hidden basic need. For example, the desire to use telephone may actually be an expression of belongingness or love. People are continuously motivated by one need or another. When one need is satisfied, it ordinarily loses its motivational power and it replaced by other. Another assumption is that all people everywhere are motivated by some basic needs or desires. Needs can be arranged in hierarchy. Accordingly, basic lower level needs must be satisfied or relatively satisfied before higher level needs become motivators. For example, safety needs become operational when physiological needs are satisfied. What are the Maslow needs? Now let us try to understand each need. A brief description of each need is given below.
Okay, so we stop here. So this is very simple to understand. What did Maslow did? He understood all this, whatever the previous people have been evolving as a theory. And then he put it all in order, because psychoanalytic theory, as it is basically for people who had some issues, who went there, to be healed. So that is why they had to be taken back, and, and the whole process of healing as well. What Maslow did, he put all these things together and he created a hierarchy from the lower to the higher, right? Last at the first level of the lower ladder is the physiological needs. That is the basic necessities of life. That is food, water, comfort, sleep, sex, etc. So according to him, when you do not meet the need of the person, that is the basic, when you don't, the person doesn't get food, water, and that doesn't have, comfort, food, clothing, shelter, and sleep and all this, it will be very difficult for him to, go to be motivated, right? You can't motivate a person when he doesn't fulfill this basic needs. So Maslow feels that this need is very important, this physiological need, because only when this need is met, he can go to the higher level. Okay, that the same way. Then the next level is the safety and security needs. What are the safety and security needs? This include personal security, financial security, health and well-being, safety against accidents, illness, further emotional environment, free from anxiety, stress. Okay, so from the physiological needs, he moved on to the safety needs. So when safety needs are met, then the person can move, is motivated to move towards the next need. What is the next need? I turned the page, I don't know the number. They are social needs, right? Now, what are the social needs? The need for the desire to have family, desire to have friendship, affection, group. Okay, so that the person doesn't feel lonely, is not feeling lost, is able to be mixed with everybody, experience love, all this kind of thing, sense of belonging. Okay, so that is the social needs. From social needs, if person has to be motivated, he moves on to the next rung of the ladder. That is the esteem needs. Now, what are the esteem needs? Esteem needs are the reputation, the person who achieves, right? Reputation into prestige, like a social prestige, that he takes up a job and he achieves a position, he achieves recognition, awards, all that in his company, and then his esteem levels will go higher, like he feels very good about himself. So that is what the motivation. From there, the last level of needs according to Maslow is the self-actualization needs. Self-actualization needs is you go through all these needs, that is the physiological needs, right? The safety needs, the social needs, the esteem needs, and then at the last point, you come towards self-actualization. Self-actualization needs a self-fulfillment. That is the realizations of one's potential. That is able to find out what is in me, what capacities that I have, what talents that I have. If I'm able to use it at the optimum level, at the optimum level, I realize myself. I realize the purpose for my life. That's where self-actualization needs happen. That is according to Maslow, right? But sometimes some people do not have to go through exactly the way Maslow has explained. Some people can be deprived of food, like how people like Gandhiji and all these people were deprived of food and all. They fasted for so many days and all, but still they attained self-actualization. Like Mother Teresa, people who serve, the highest level of optimum level of service. They are not always eating and to very comfort and all. They experience a lot of discomforts. They may not get food at time. They may have a lot of problems. Like this, people face many challenges in life, but still they achieve, still they fulfill, their actualization, the self-actualization. Okay, but according to Maslow, these are the levels in how one person is motivated in life to achieve something or to reach the self-actualization. That person must have the basic needs met, the social needs, the esteem needs, and the safety needs. When all these meets, okay, there is a kind of thing. Okay, so I'm coming to the last page. I don't know your page number. Okay, so there you have
165, ma'am.
Sorry, ma'am.
165.
165. Yeah?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So last paragraph, there is aesthetic and cognitive. People are motivated for the need of beauty and aesthetically pleasing experiences. People with aesthetic needs, beautiful and orderly surrounding. When these needs are not met, they are disorderly environment. They become physically and spiritually. Physically and spiritually ill. Similarly, cognitive needs refer to desire to know and to understand, explore. When cognitive needs are blocked, all needs of Maslow hierarchy of needs are threatened. Knowledge is necessary to satisfy all the above needs. For example, people can gratify the physiological needs by knowing how to secure foods, how to have the safety needs met by knowing how to build a shelter, that is home or a house. Then the love needs by knowing how to relate to people. Esteem needs by knowing how to acquire self-confidence, self-actualization by fulfilling the cognitive potential. Though the theory is popular, it has been criticized by being too optimistic about the mankind in general. Maslow's theory considers the only healthy part of man and totally ignored the unhealthy side of people. Society consists of both healthy and unhealthy people. Okay. By this, we end the whole syllabus. Right? You can check your progress. Explain the instinct theory of McDonald, which is very simple. You can explain and explains the unconscious motivation in human behavior. That is Freud's psychoanalytic theory, and explains self-esteem needs of Maslow, which is also very, very easy. Okay, so read through the summary, read through the progress, and look at the questions, how it is, try and answer it, and you'll be able to. There is also a glossary in case you are not able to. And at the end of your syllabus, you are finding the model question paper, section A, B, right? So you go through and prepare well, ma. And then I have already given you my email ID. If there is anybody having any questions, you can send it. Only administrative questions I'm not able to answer because I'm not in control. That is totally under the control of the university. Things like examination dates and practical exams, all these are under their purview. It is not under me. Okay. So by this, I close. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for people who have helped me in reading, all Nagamani, Swati, Maulika, and Monamika. No, did I get your name right?
Maimuna, ma'am.
Maimona, sorry. Maimona. So thank you so much for reading, and I wish you all the best, and I'm sure you all will do very well in this paper. Please go through and reinforce learning. So thank you very much, and God bless you. I take leave. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Have a happy Sunday. Enjoy your Sunday. Your class is over.